There we go. We got a bit of a Son House thing going on. Son House was like a steamroller, and he could throw in some licks and stuff when he wanted to, but he was probably, I don't know, the most real Delta blues guitar player that there was. He just played it open and raw, like, real raw feelings type of thing.
Not like a preacher would play it.
Exactly.
Not like a preacher would
Yeah,
play
that's
it.
right.
He was a preacher. Son House was a preacher.
He was a preacher. He was from a very early age, and he always kind of admired blues players and stuff, and him kind of chasing that blues guitar thing kind of led him to becoming not a preacher anymore, and kind of embarking on a different life, very much a blues life. But actually, he after he got away from being on the road and touring and stuff like that, he lived in New York City, and he settled down with a lady, and always had it was a real pull in his life, following God and staying away from
balancing it out.
Balancing out. And there
Yeah.
was a real battle in his life that it just kind of exemplifies a real battle in real life for so many people in so many different ways and things. But that blues battle was definitely there and very real in his life. And in his 70s, he got rediscovered.
Yes.
And he really didn't lose a whole lot.
Right.
Yeah, and his voice was still amazing to hear him sing. He had that real Southern gospel style in his delivery and his voice and stuff, and just that it would almost be savage the way he would play guitar, but
His level, yes, of energy. Was,
yeah, exactly.
Remind me of Stevie Ray Vaughan.
The real passion, exactly.
Yeah.
Wham. So, but he influenced he influenced so many different people, and he used I don't know what I think he used just a bottle, a glass bottle, which was a smoother sound. But you can get into different. I'm just going to do something kind of weird here. I'm going to look like Edward Scissorhands, but
reinvent the wheel.
Exactly. We're gonna. If you can hear the different sounds. That's kind of it's kind of a raspy sound, brass. This is I used to have two of these, but Rick Taylor talked me out of one. Then you got glass, which the old blues guys used to just tie the string around the neck of a bottle, an old whiskey bottle, which they usually had plenty of them around, and they'd do that and soak it in gasoline and burn it, and then give it a tap, and then file it down, and that was their slide.
What a different sound with each one.
Yeah, more of a mellower sound.
Yes.
And then you got... this came along through, I think they used socket wrenches starting in the late 60s. And got another. Which is kind of in between.
Yes.
There's other things that you can use, like a steak bone and all this other stuff. But these are the main three. You got kind of a glass, and you got your brass here. And then you get your chrome surface. So, yeah, you can do all sorts of things. But... man, Son House, he was just something else.
Yeah.
He really got people playing a lot of slide guitar.
There's a few clips of him on YouTube. And
there's
like
lots
it would
of
be
stuff,
worth some anybody's time to just watch him play. It's amazing.
Any of the he's one of the only guys from back in that time. He was the first generation of blues players, and to be able to check him out on YouTube is an amazing thing. It's so great that there was a discovery.
It's amazing
of people like him.
Someone filmed
and
that.
Really awesome finger pickers. Like Mississippi John Hurt and guys like that.
Yes.
And I think the biggest influence on finger picking, and really the main mountain you got to climb in finger picking, is Blind Blake.
Blind Blake.
Yeah.
He was amazing. He was doing Chet Atkins stuff back in the early 1900s.
Yeah.
And he was doing it with style and class. Like he had the alternating bass and all the syncopation. Like he was a real accomplished guitarist. And you wonder, where did he get all that influence? There wasn't much to draw upon back then for that style. I mean, a lot of people think that Merle Travis style and Chet Atkins style just surfaced around the 30s or 40s.
Yeah.
But Blind Blake was playing that stuff back in the early 1900s.
Exactly.
And,
you could probably show some Blind Blake, and then to tie it all in together, show some Merle Travis and Chet Atkins.
Yeah.
See where that influence came from.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, like the Blind Blake thing, he had this alternating bass going on. And that would stay a constant while he did melodies.
Yes. As opposed to like a dead thumb thing.
as opposed to a drone.
Yeah,
right.
which is more
right.
of the Mississippi Delta thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you get your drone.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the Blind Blake thing was the back and forth while he did the melody.
Yeah. Had a real swing to it. Yeah.
Or a Chet Atkins style, which would be like Blind Blake.
Yep.
You get that steady bass thing going back and
But
forth.
what you got there, the difference there is more of a major tonality. Probably.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So it was pretty amazing, you know, how he kept that steady. And I mean, when you think it was back in the 1900s.
Oh, yeah.
It's one thing for a lot of, I mean, there's a lot of guitar players today that play fingerstyle and alternating bass, but they've got a lot of influence to draw upon.
Yes.
And you know, but I mean, back then there wasn't too much to draw upon, and to see a guy like him that had the level of skill that he did for that time is truly amazing. He was a real innovator. He almost reminds me of Jimi Hendrix. He was,
Exactly.
you know,
exactly.
yeah.
Some of these guys, if you were to pop on the scene before they came along,
Yes.
and then all of a sudden, boom, they were there. It's like, well, where did that come from?
Exactly.
Like a Hendrix.
Now,
Yeah.
speaking about that, Travis, how did you first get interested in blues?
Well, we were talking about this the other day, Jerry, and it's kind of crazy. We've got this one person in common way back, and my mom and dad used to like to party and have a good time, and they used to invite a gentleman over that would play guitar and sing. So when I was around 3 years of age, there was a gentleman by the name of Bud Roberts,
Yes.
who used to come over to the house
Yes.
and play Hank Williams songs.
Right.
And Hank Williams, not a lot of people know this, but Hank, growing up where he grew up, he was taught to play guitar by an African American.
Yes.
His name was T-Tot. That
Right.
was his nickname.
Right.
And he taught Hank how to play blues and stuff
Yes,
like that.
yes.
So if you listen to Hank's music,
Right.
I mean, the melodies, that type of thing, there was
Right.
a lot of blues in Hank's music.
Yes. Yes.
So just live music in general, but that bluesy quality.
Yes.
My parents got me a guitar when I was 3 or 4, a very
Right.
early age, because I
Right.
was so enamored with Bud being at the house and playing.
Yes.
And later on, he didn't come around much, so I mean, I never got to keep in touch with him or anything.
Yes.
But he was a big influence.
Yes.
And
Yes.
later on in life, you keep on hearing like bluesy styles of music, but
Yes.
I mean, not really connecting them to blues, because blues for me was like, well, what would that be?
Right. Right.
So on and on, you listen to bands like Leonard Skinner. There's
Right.
definitely pentatonic stuff in there,
Right.
in their playing, or other groups that I grew up listening to. Then when I was 17, I got into I heard a song on the radio by David Bowie,
Yes.
who was kind of, I guess, indirectly responsible for the blues boom that happened in the
Right.
80s.
Right.
But he had in his employment Stevie Ray Vaughan.
Okay.
And the guitar sound was like out of this world.
Right.
And the intensity level was so cool, and licks like I never heard.
Yes.
So I had to find out who that was, and a buddy of mine told me who it was, and I got the CD
Yes.
later, and I was like, what is this? And later on that night, B.B. King played on PBS.
Right.
And it was like, okay, they're similar, so it's kind of blues.
Yes.
And I think in my early 20s, I met a man by the name of Kurt Gibson,
Yes.
who's African Canadian,
Right.
and the first real blues player that I ever got to know.
Mm-hmm.
And he had a really huge influence on me as a person, not just as a guitar player,
Right.
but as a person too. And then I just started investigating Stevie Ray Vaughan's influences and people that Kirk told me about,
And that can be addictive.
and hugely. And I'm glad I got into that instead of other things.
Yeah. 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 Well, that's good. That's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool.
How about
yeah.
yourself?
Well, when I was young, you know, my father used to play a lot of Hank Snow records and Wolf Carter. They were big in the day, and Jimmy Rogers,
Oh, wow.
old Jimmy Rogers,
Singing Brakeman.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and he was very heavily versed in the blues, and it kind of gave me a love for the blues, but I didn't know how to identify it at that
Right.
time. Yeah,
Right.
So, so when I was a young teenager, I started playing music, and of course we did top 40 stuff and pop bands and whatnot, and back then, a lot of the music, as it is today, was very heavily influenced by the blues. A lot of Motown stuff and, you know, Wilson Pickett stuff. That was very deeply derived in the blues. And we even did a lot of blues tunes, Muddy Waters and whatnot. So, you know, I've always appreciated the blues, the looseness of it.
Yeah.
and the improvisational part of it.
Yeah.
Where you never play exactly the same thing twice, hopefully anyway.
Yeah, yeah.
And you know, that kind of thing has always appealed to me, even as a very young teenager.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I love the blues even more today.
Right
Yeah,
on.
Yeah. So maybe we will just jam out and concerning this section, and then we'll go on next time.
Sure, we can do that.
Yeah.
All right, we'll have to stick it in the key of G, though.
Let's stick in the key of G.
All right, let's see. Pick a slide, any slide.
Any slide.